around for the last 40 years. And today I have a special guest. He's the author of the book Rise About the Script, no other than Mr. Albert Bramante.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here. This is
W-
so exciting. And I'm
welcome,
happy to
yes.
discuss with your viewers my book.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Albert. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name's Albert Bramante. I am a talent agent in New York. So I represent actors full time for stage, film, TV, commercials. And, I wrote this book, Rise Above the Script, because I have a strong interest in psychology, but also my experience working with performing artists have found that over the years, a lot of them, had periods of self doubt and were having bouts of self sabotage, self defeating behaviors, fear of success, imposter syndrome, all of those things that were combining that really were holding them back. And I wanted to create this book to help, hopefully provide some answers, some insight into this
Certainly.
type of why this keeps occurring.
So, Mr. Albert Bramante, thank you so much for sharing your rights about the script to the world. So, why do you think performing artists are especially vulnerable to self sabotage?
I think there's multiple reasons. The main one is the intense competition that that surrounds anybody in the performing arts discipline. It's a highly saturated market, so therefore there are so many more actors and performers than there are jobs and opportunities. So the competition is extremely strong, and it's an industry that is not flexible. It's not a 9 to 5 corporate or typical job in that we see in most other industries. So there's a lot of unpredictability here, and um, along that, with the immense competition, can wear the actor down time after time, especially hearing more no's than they are yeses, which is a reality in this business. You will hear more no's than you will hear yeses, and therefore that can erode time after time,
Certainly.
and that can. Mhm.
Totally agree with you, Mr. Albert. So, how did your own experience with self doubt shape the direction of this book?
Well, my own experiences, I think we've all experienced, self doubt from time to time. And I also work, with students because I'm a part time psychology professor. And I've taught for many years. And I've even seen students having self doubt creeping in. And even from time to time, I have moments of self doubt too. For instance, this book, it took me a few years to actually get the nerve to sit and write and publish. Because for a long time, my own imposter syndrome started to creep up a bit, where I started like the thought popped up, well, who am I to write this book, and who would read it? And I'm glad I did. I pulled the trigger and did it, and sat down and spent 6 months in writing it. In 2023, it was released in 2024. So I can identify with a lot of the actors that I work with and the actors that are out there, that this is an issue that is multifaceted. There's so many different reasons, so many different causes, and that's some of the things I talk about in my book. Is some of the causes, which is fear of success or fears around money. All of that can add to self sabotaging behaviors.
So, Mr.
And the reason why, Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I'll just end with this. The fear of success is so pervasive that it's not a conscious fear. It's not like people are walking around saying, I have a fear of succeeding. but it's so sinister because it's so behind the scenes, and it can impact and erode time after time and impact your success.
So, Mr. Albert, who did you write this book for, and what shift do you hope it creates in them?
The book is geared towards actors and actresses and performing artists out there, and the purpose or my aim, my goal for the book is to step into your power and really let go of any self doubt that you have so that you can become the better performer that you're meant to be and really live up to your fullest potential and not hold yourself back and not let fear get in the way.
So, Mr. Robert, let's talk about the confronting self doubt. What are the most common internal scripts you've seen holding artists back?
The script that you have, that actors have, that I help them get out of is the mentality of the starving artist or the struggling artist. And if you keep running that script that I'm a starving artist, I'm an aspiring artist, you're sending messages to your subconscious, your deeper mind, that you're not equal, you're not good enough, and that starts to wear down over time. And also, because of that, over time, what starts happening is auditions may not up or opportunities may come up. You start talking yourself out of it and saying, "Well, this may be worth it. This may be worth my time. I'm not going to audition for this." And then eventually, they wind up leaving the industry, leaving the business, which happens to a lot of actors that I've come across. Is that after a few years, they wind up leaving the industry.
I think, Mr. Albert, there's a miscommunication gap.
I'll tag, yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so
you're lagging.
okay,
So let's
okay.
talk about my next question. How can someone tell the difference between humility and self doubt?
Humility is more about being humble, meaning that you still think you're successful, but you're not better than anybody else. You're equal on the playing field. So for self doubt, you start to think you're even lower than the average actor. So humility could even be the mentality like, I'm a great actor. However, there are also other great actors alongside of me. So humility is having the confidence, but not the arrogance. There's a big difference between confidence and arrogance.
Totally agree.
So
Mm.
humility involves confidence. Mm-hmm. That's a big difference between humility and self doubt.
Totally agree, Mr. Albert. And even if you're lagging, so what is your advice to artists stuck in a comparison or imposter syndrome?
So the advice is to remember your why. Why are you doing this? What is your connection to this material? Why are you doing this? And maintain that why, that reason, and maintain that connection to the source. Like, why are you a performer? And that's usually one thing I'll ask is, why are you doing this? And most of the time, it gives them life, it gives them passion. Always keep a reminder of that. Every audition opportunity, look at it as a way to perform. Not that you're being judged, but as a way to perform and have fun and do what you love. That's the first thing. And also, keep track of your wins. That's the main thing too. Maintain your wins in a sense. So every time you get a callback, every time you land a job or you get a good review, a performance review, document that and keep coming back to that document, that file. I call it the happy file. And that helps you stay connected to the source and to the reason. So when self-doubt creeps in, just pull out your happy file and remember, the reason why you're doing this, and stay
Mm,
connected to that mission.
certainly. So, Mr. Albert, how do you suggest performers build a confidence without reading constant external validation?
The main thing is, again, staying connected to the source, like connect to the reason why you're doing it, connect to the role, connect to the project. For, don't do it for the sake of what other people are going to say, or what the critics are going to say. Okay, do the work that's satisfying for you. And again, connect to the roots of why you wanted to be an actor. A lot of times it's they were inspired by other actors. They saw other shows that meant a lot to them, and that ignited their passion. So stay true to your passion. That's the main thing. Stay true to the main reason why you're doing
Yes, straight,
this.
stay
True.
for your true passion, people. If your passion is to be an artist, please do share to the world. So, Mr. Albert, let's talk about the mastering self sabotage. What does self sabotage look like in a performer's life or career?
So self-sabotage can take many forms. Uh, for one thing, it could mean blowing off auditions, not showing up for auditions, not showing up for performances, not being fully prepared, or lack of preparation, I should say. It could also mean, being unprofessional on set or on stage, wherever that takes place. There could be multiple factors as to why actors will, self sabotage in many ways. It could also mean, engaging in alcohol and substance abuse, which is unfortunately not uncommon in the industry. Okay, so there are multiple ways that self sabotage can show up. It's different ways that can happen.
So, Mr. Albert, how does fear of success play into the cycle of self sabotage?
Okay, so fear of success, it really boils down to fear of change. Because when you are successful in any endeavor, you're successful, your life may change. It will change. So it could be landing that role. Landing that role could be more money and more exposure. And that can be scary, because your life is going to change. And sometimes the people that are in your life or in your circle may not fully understand that, of what you're going through or what your success means, and may be threatened by your success. So relationships sometimes may be threatened. And therefore, our minds, because as human beings, we strive comfort and we strive routine. We crave for that routine. We crave so we're not going to have those concerns come up. We want to do that. So we'll do that. If that means not getting that opportunity to make sure safe, want to make yourself that that fear of change. That can work. And also, talking about the use of money.
Hello, Mr. Albert. I think you're logging and I cannot hear you well. Can you fix your connection, your Wi Fi, or whatever medium that you're. So, Rise Above the Script by Mr. Albert Bramante. While we are waiting for him, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season. People, fifth season. with Chef Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter sender all over the world. So please do listen. Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Albert, let's continue what we are talking about. I
Hmm.
think we have an echo right now. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, let's continue our conversation. And we are talking about mastering and self sabotage. What are the some strategies for breaking the perfectionism trap?
Breaking the perfectionist trap is learning to embrace failure and learning to embrace the mistakes because and learning to reframe failures as learning opportunities. Um, Learning to just remember where you're coming from in a sense. Um, and so that is important. So looking as failure as feedback, as opportunities to learn and
Yes.
opportunities for advancement.
So
That's the
how
main
does
thing.
so how does the mindset training differ from just positive thinking?
Well, it's by being active and by actively learning from failure. So taking, even if you make a mistake, rather than dwelling on that, use that opportunity to learn. So that from one audition, if you mistake or make an error, you learn from that and you take that as important feedback, and then you move on to the next one and apply what you've learned so that it makes you a better performer and stronger performer rather than just dwelling on that failure or feeling sorry for yourself because that can happen too.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. So, Mr. Albert, what would be your advice for those artists out there to bring out their fully potential?
to, to bring their fullest potential, stay true, stay current with your training and learning. You're always learning. Always maintain the mindset of always learning and set goals for yourself, set challenges for yourself, step outside your comfort zone, try out different roles that you may not be comfortable with or that you're used to so that you have that change in that, change in your routine. And always, keep connected to the source, to the root of why you're doing this. It's like, what is your why? And that's the main thing. Staying true to the main reason why you're doing this and remain connected to that.
What is your why, people? Thank you for your advice, Mr. Albert. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
Sure. Well, my short term goals is to, really make an impact with this book. And, I work with a lot of actors in the New York area, but I would hope to impact actors worldwide, across the country and even the globe internationally. That's short term. Long term, I'd like to create some more books, relating to self doubt and, mindset. So that's my long term goal, and to also at some point, set up a coaching practice or group coaching program for actors, specifically focusing on their mindset because they have their training, technique training, which is great, but a lot of the traditional acting training do not really del- delve into mindset and you know and the psychology that is required. So I would hope to have that program to kind of make up that missing piece.
Hmm. Good luck to your goals,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Albert. And looking forward for more and more and more empowering book like this or books to come. So let's talk about the tools, practices, and empowerment. What role does rehearsal, not just a performance, but a mindset, play in overcoming doubt?
100% important. I think even more so than the performance aspect of rehearsal. I think just staying, mantras to yourself. I'm a big believer of affirmations and not just saying it once or twice, but saying it repeatedly. Like I deserve to be here. I deserve to have a seat at the table. of success. And I'm a professional working actor. I'm not don't avoid using the word struggling or starving. You are a working professional actor who deserves to be here. And saying that daily to yourself all the time. And again, listening to other podcasts and reading books is important. That's the one way too, just to rehearse this too.
Yes. So how can performing artists maintain their mental health in such a high pressure field?
Having outside passions is important too. Not just dwelling on acting 24/7 or performing 24/7. Do some volunteer work, or have some other hobbies and interests that are not just acting. Like a lot of my clients are into yoga. Some of them are yoga instructors, some of them are fitness instructors, some of them are work in design, have a design business or a website building business on the side. And that kind of keeps them grounded too. So having some outside passions, having some outside interests is important, not
Yes,
just
okay.
dwelling on acting 24/7.
So what is your take on the relationship between vulnerability and artistic strength?
I think that it's a fine line because, as actors, you're playing your vulnerabilities every time you play a character. Most of the clients that I know, most of the actors I know are empaths, which means an empath is someone who strongly feels connected to the material, connected to the character. And they are oftentimes digging deep within themselves to connect to a character, which adds to a great performance for the audience to watch and for the director and everybody else involved. My only concern with that is where where the boundaries lie, because sometimes actors can get lost in these roles that they play, and get caught up.
Yes. So what's one daily ritual or mental reset you recommend to your readers?
Daily, I would say meditate, um, sit in stillness for a little bit, without technology, and just keep referring to yourself, or even visualize. The mind, the brain, the interesting thing about the brain, it does not know the difference between fiction and reality, so, or imagination and reality. So imagine, visualize before you perform, or you have a performance, visualize it in your head that it's going very well.
Yes.
And even before you do it, and do that over and over again, so that
Yes.
helps in time.
Consistency, people, is one of the key to success. So, Mr. Albert, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Mental Health 101. In each first season, people, first season with Mr. Jimmy Smith. Mental Health 101 is created, of course, to empower our mental health awareness. So please do listen Mental Health 101 wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Albert, if someone finishes your book and still feels afraid, what would you say to them?
I think the first thing is I would commend them for admitting that they feel afraid, and that's being vulnerable, and that's a human experience. So, the first thing I would say is that there's nothing wrong with that. That's a human emotion and valid. And then we would talk through the fear, like what is exactly, are you afraid of? And very often our minds can create fictional situations, or scenarios that aren't true. That's why some say the definition of fear is false, false events appearing real.
Mm.
So talk through that would be the main thing, not to hide it. I don't think burying our fears is the answer. Talk through it.
Mr. Albert Bramante, thank you so much for sharing your rise above the script to the world, and we are looking for more and more and more empowering books like this. So can you please invite our listeners to support Rise Above the Script?
Absolutely. It's available on Amazon.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Albert Bramante because if you support him, as I said, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Albert, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.